Shri Lakshmi Nishingade Bhagavan ki, Shri Prahlada Maharaj ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Go Premanande. So today marks the most auspicious anniversary appearance of Shri Nishingade Bhagavan ki, Prahlada Maharaj ki, Shri Lakshmi Nishingade Bhagavan ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So we shall read several verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, but the particular theme for today is how Lord Nishingadev appeared in ISKCON. We all know how Lord Nishingadev appeared in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but how Lord Nishingadev appeared in ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And then thereafter I'll take questions, and then after questions we'll conclude about how Lord Nishingadev appeared in Juhu. It's in this book. By the mercy of Mr. Naya, the previous landowner. It's here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18. And there are 3 verses in this chapter entitled, The Residents of Jambudweep Offer Prayers. Usually devotees read from the 7th canto, but we're going to read about Lord Nishingadev in relation to Prahlada Maharaj from the 5th canto. So text number 7 also has a purport. Text number 8 is the actual prayer of Prahlada Maharaj, and I'll read the purport of that. And text number 9, Prahlada Maharaj continues several prayers thereafter. And I will just read the text, but the purport will be for text number 8. This is Prahlada Maharaj's very first prayer to Lord Nishingadev. And the text is in sort of prose form, so I'll just read the text myself in Sanskrit, because you may not be able to, because it's not the regular way of reading. So text number 7. Hari Vashe Chapi Bhagavan Narahari Rupenaste Tadrupa Grahana Nimitam Uttaratra Bidasye Tad Daitam Rupam Mahapurusha Guna Bhajano Maha Bhagavato Daitya Danavakula Titikarana Sila Charitaha Prahlado Vyava Dananaya bhakti yogena sahatat vasha purushar upaste idam choda harati. You can repeat the translation. Very beautiful. By Srila Prabhupada. Sukadeva Goswami continued. Everyone? My dear King, Lord Nrsimhadev resides in the tract of land known as Arivasha. In the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I shall describe to you how Prahlada Maharaj caused the Lord to assume the form of Nrsimhadev. Prahlada Maharaj, the topmost devotee of the Lord, is a reservoir of all the good qualities of great personalities. His character and activities have delivered all the fallen members of his demoniac family. Lord Nrsimhadev is very dear to this exalted personality. Thus Prahlada Maharaj, along with his servants and all the denizens of Harivasha, worships Lord Nrsimhadev by chanting the following mantra, which is text number 8. You can repeat this, some words at a time after me, although it's in prose form. It's the first prayer of Prahlada Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namaste Tejase Avirbhava Vajranakha Vajradamstra Karma Sayan Randayam Randaya Tamograsa Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Abhayam Atmani Bhuyiste Om Krosham. Can repeat the translation. Beautiful translation by Srila Prabhupada. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsimhadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish. I won't say our, I'll change it personally. Kindly vanquish my demon-like desires. Because others may not have demon-like desires. I have. Again, O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish my demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in my heart and drive away my ignorance so that by your mercy, I may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. It's amazing. Prahlada Maharaj never mentions his father's name. He mentions himself together with the denizens of Harivarsha. So this is my favorite prayer when I pray to Lord Nrsimhadev. In the purport by Srila Prabhupada, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 39, Sanat Kumar speaks the following words to Maharaj Prithu. Yat pada pankaja palasa vilasa bhaktya karma sayam gratitam ud gratayanti shantaha tadvanna rikta matayo yato yopirudha sroto ganastam aranam bhajavasudevam. Quote, devotees always engage in the service of the toes of the Lord's lotus feet can very easily become free from hard, knotted desires for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, the jnanis and yogis, cannot stop the waves of sense gratification, although they try to do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Unquote. Every living being within this material world has a strong desire to enjoy matter to his fullest satisfaction. For this purpose, the conditioned soul must accept one body after another, and thus as strongly fixed fruitive desires continue. One cannot stop the repetition of birth and death without being completely desireless. Thus Srila Rupa Goswami describes pure bhakti, devotional service, as follows. Anya bilasita sunyam jnana karma janavritam anukulyana krishnanu silanam bhaktiruttama. Quote, one should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Unquote. Unless one is completely freed of all material desires, which are caused by the dense darkness of ignorance, one cannot fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, we should always offer our prayers to Lord Narasimhadev, who killed Hiranyakashipu, the personification of material desire. Hiranya means gold, and Kashipu means a soft cushion or bed. Materialistic persons always desire to make the body comfortable, and for this they require huge amounts of gold. Thus, Hiranyakashipu was the perfect representative of materialistic life. He was therefore the cause of great disturbance to the topmost devotee, Prahlada Maharaj, until Lord Nrsimhadev killed him. Any devotee aspiring to be free of material desires should offer his respectful prayers to Nrsimhadev as Prahlada Maharaj did in this verse. Text 9, another beautiful verse. Text number 8 is personal. Text number 9 is to give blessings. Prahlada Maharaj gives blessings. Swasyastu Vishvasya Kalaprasidatam Dhyayantu Bhutani Shivamittodiya Manascha Bhadram Bhajatad Adoksaje Avisyatam no Matir Apya Hoituki. Translation, you can repeat. May there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing Bhakti Yoga, for by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Sri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in thought of Him. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was serving His Holiness Giriraj Swami in Durban in the late 80s in South Africa. So during the morning program we sing Shri Shri Guruva Astaka prayers to the disciplic succession, and thereafter we sing Nishingadev prayers. See? So at the end, the devotee who was chanting and singing the Nishingadev prayers, he said, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad. Now you don't repeat after me. Then there was Tulsi Puja, and after Tulsi Puja, His Holiness Giriraj Swami called me and he said, call that devotee. So I called the devotee who was chanting. He was very sensitive to it, but he didn't do it in public. So I was there, right there. So His Holiness Giriraj Swami told the devotee, Prahlad Maharaj is not a bhakta. He is Prahlad Maharaj. He is a Mahajan. So the devotee was a little confused. And he said, I will explain. He said, Srila Prabhupada cautioned one devotee when he said Bhakta Prahlad too. Because in ISKCON, we have a term, Bhakta so-and-so. That means he's a beginning devotee. That's the indication. So So I said, Prahlad Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada said, is not a beginning devotee. He's a Maharaja. So we should always say, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad. After me. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. So when you glorify Nishingadev, you have to glorify his devotee first. Then he becomes more pleased. Because the mercy of the Lord, Nishingadev, only follows the mercy of his devotee. So first the mercy of Prahlad Maharaj, then the mercy of Lord Nishingadev. Srila Prabhupada's first talk of how he introduced Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Nishingadev was on December 19th, 1966 in New York. And I just titled this excerpt of this lecture. Srila Prabhupada says, it is very dangerous to become a devotee. Very dangerous, yes. And Srila Prabhupada begins the lecture. Tavakara kamala vare nakam adbhuta shringam dalita hiranya kashipu tanu bringam keshavadrita narahari rupa jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Tavakara Kamala Vare Naka Adbhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringa Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare. And then Srila Prabhupada says, Prahlad Maharaj was a great devotee of the Lord. And his only fault was that he was a great devotee. So it is very dangerous also to become devotee. Even the father will be prepared to kill you. You see? The mother will be prepared to kill you. What to speak of others complaining. Oh Swamiji, you are disturbing our sleep. You know, when we have kirtan, the neighbor is disturbing our sleep. His Grace Harisori Prabhu, when he was in the womb of the mother, there was supposed to be an abortion. You understand what that means? I don't want this child. But somehow he appeared. They forgot the idea. And he's become a great devotee. And he's given us so much Prabhupada Leela Katha. Then Srila Prabhupada continues in that first lecture where it says devotional life line is very risky. We create so many enemies, like even here in Juhu in Mumbai with Mr. N. So although we have made our friendship with Krishna and he will always protect us, but at the same time this devotional line is risky also, that we create so many enemies. Srila Prabhupada never really had any enemies in 1966, but he knew they will come. That unnecessarily people become enemy to these innocent devotees. even an innocent boy like Prahlad Maharaj, 5 years old, but a devotee cannot give up his profession. He was being chastised so many times by his atheistic father. But what Prahlad Maharaj was doing? Oh, he was the king. He ordered the teachers that this boy is coming home and chanting Hare Krishna. What is this nonsense? You know, when you join, sometimes your parents tell you that, right? What is this Hare Krishna? But they didn't kill you. The teachers were asked, Hiranyakashipu. Teacher said, my dear sir, and Prabhupada laughs a few times here in the lecture, if you hear it. It's nice if you could play this lecture. Anyway, the teacher said, Sandhana Marka, my dear sir, we do not teach Hare Krishna. According to your regulation, we are circular. Circular. There is no possibility of teaching God or God's name. This boy, we do not know where from he has got this Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada laughs. And then Hiranyakashipu, he became very angry. And he asked Prahlad, where have you got your Hare Krishna? Prabhupada speaks like that. And Prahlad replied, Father, from where you got your anger, I have got that Hare Krishna also. He is the supplier. You want to be angry, Father? He supplies anger. And I want to chant, he supplies Hare Krishna. Oh, he becomes more angry. So but that boy, what he was doing? The teacher was forbidden, secular, and the father was enemy. Still he was taking some opportunity. As soon as the teacher was out, oh my dear friends, come on, I shall speak to you Hare Krishna and the signs. So this should be your policy. Whenever there is some chance, just preach this. Whenever there is chance. But you should always know that you will find enemies. But you don't be afraid. Go on with your work. Although Srila Prabhupada chanted Tavakara Kamala Varena Kamad Bhuta Shringam in this first lecture in December 16th in 1966, he still did not introduce the prayers in the morning program. So when did he introduce that? In ISKCON. We're coming to now. Srila Prabhupada, as we know, had 2 heart attacks on the Jaladuta. The 3rd heart attack he went through, he died. He left his body for 45 seconds. This is in May, end of May 1967, in 26 2nd Avenue, in his apartment in the back. If you go in the back courtyard, you go up the stairs, we say 1st floor, they say 2nd floor. Ground floor, we say, Prabhupada had an apartment in 26 2nd Avenue. Yeah. So there, Srila Prabhupada began to feel exhausted. End of May 1967. And he was speaking about heart palpitations. So Kirtananda Prabhu that time told the devotees, nobody should visit Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada should rest because his condition of his health is not so good. So the memorial day was on Tuesday, end of May. But 2 days before, on a Sunday, the devotees arranged a huge program in a hall in downtown in Manhattan in New York. Yeah. So Achyutananda Prabhu at that time went up to Srila Prabhupada since all the devotees were ready to go and they were waiting for Srila Prabhupada to go. So as soon as he came, he saw Swamiji at that time was lying down and his face was very pale. And he told Achyutananda Prabhu, please feel my heart. And then he felt there was a vibration in Srila Prabhupada's chest. So Achyutananda Prabhu went down and alerted everyone and they panicked. So Kirtanananda Prabhu at that time told the devotees, he was a little bit more composed, he was the leader. Yeah. He said, Swamiji is having some heart palpitations. And then immediately Kirtanananda Prabhu and Achyutananda Prabhu went up to the room and Prabhupada said, Swamiji said, please massage. So Achyutananda Prabhu again massaged on the chest and Prabhupada showed him how to do it. And he said, let the others go and do the program. So the other devotees went off to do the program. Yeah. So then Kirtanananda Prabhu at that time remembers like that. So he was there with Srila Prabhupada and Achyutananda Prabhu, and Prabhupada's eyes started rolling. You know, the eyes becomes like a ball, you know, it kind of rolls like that. And when the eyes started rolling, then suddenly Srila Prabhupada, although they were holding him, but Srila Prabhupada in one thrust threw himself back, but Kirtananda caught him in time, and Srila Prabhupada just was gasping. And the last words he gasped was, Hare Krishna. And he left his body. He died for 45 seconds. And Srila Prabhupada writes in a letter, when we come up now, I'll read that letter. It was meant to be. He was meant to have left. Like that. So Brahmananda Prabhu at that time recalls that after he came back to consciousness after 45 seconds, so to speak, like that, Srila Prabhupada was bedridden. So Brahmananda Prabhu went to buy all the things to nurse him back to health. And he also bought a bedpan, because you can't go to the washroom or toilet to pass, you know. So you have to pass in a bedpan. And then they get a sort of a lota to pass water. So he brought all that into the room. And Brahmananda Prabhu stayed with Srila Prabhupada. And then they had turns also. But when Brahmananda Prabhu's turn was to stay with Srila Prabhupada, was completely bedridden. Srila Prabhupada's left side became completely paralyzed. No movement. They pinch, no pain. So then Srila Prabhupada asked for a photo of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur to be posted right in front of him. And then Brahmananda Prabhu at that time thought that Srila Prabhupada is going to leave us at any moment again. Because he said, I want to meditate on my spiritual master before I leave. So Achyutananda taped the photo of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur facing Srila Prabhupada. See? And then devotees entered the room of the apartment and began to chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Jadurani Mataji was also there. And Srila Prabhupada called her forward. And in a very low voice, soft, low voice, Srila Prabhupada told all of them to pray to Krishna in the form of Lord Nrsimhadev. And there's a tape later on how he teaches them. But he was saying the words at this time. So one by one, they was writing the words. Jadurani Mataji was writing the words like that. So after she wrote the words, she couldn't understand the meaning. So she asked Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, can you tell us the meaning of these words? And the words are actually Tava Kara Kamala Vare Nakam Adbhuta Shringam and ends with Jaya Jagadeshare. He gave the second refrain of our prayers. He didn't give the first two verses. The last refrain of the prayers. So Prabhupada gave the meaning. And he said the meaning is that you should pray, our spiritual master has not yet completed his work, so please let him finish. That's the meaning he gave of those prayers. Yeah. So Jadurani began writing it, began explaining it, and everyone's writing in little slips of paper the words Tavakara Kamala Varena Kamad Bhuta Shringam. And she explained that Swamiji wants us to chant these prayers so that he is protected in his devotional service to his Guru Maharaj to spread the mission of Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So then Brahmananda Prabhu thought, well, it would be a nice thing since he's giving us pray to Lord Nishingadev. And at that time, Srila Prabhupada was explaining to Jadurani, which is the same painting that he instructed should be on the altar. No other painting. You know where Nishingadev, like we have a diorama, is ripping with Prahlada on the side. That should be the photo on the altar. So at that time, Jadurani was just first painting it. She improved it later with what we have now. First painting that. So Brahmananda, with his own enthusiasm, he brought that painting into Prabhupada's room. Like that. And then everyone was chanting Hare Krishna. So at that time, Prabhupada motioned to Brahmananda Prabhu, please bring the bedpan, because he has to pass. Then everyone left the room. Like that. So Brahmananda saw that when he was bringing the bedpan, he went to fetch it, and then while he was coming, Prabhupada was already sitting up in the bed, struggling with himself, and he's praying to Lord Nishingadev. He says something like, my dear Lord Nishingadev, please forgive me. I have to pass in front of you. In other words, he didn't see it as a painting. He saw actually Lord Nishingadev. And he's talking to him, please forgive me, I have to do this thing in front of you. Please forgive. For a little thing like that, which is a bodily need, to sort out. He's praying to Nishingadev. So Brahmananda said he had a realization at that time that Prabhupada was seeing Nishingadev in the room, whereas he was seeing painting. He said he couldn't understand his personality. It's unfathomable. It's too deep and there's no bottomless. There's no bottom, it's bottomless. And it's too high and there's no sky. Yes. And Prabhupada indeed had a heart attack. And he left his body. Yes. So that prayer, Tavakara Kamala Varena Kamadbhuta Shringam, was sent to San Francisco. And there again the devotees, with Hayagriva was there, with Haridas was there, and so forth. They told all the devotees. Of course, we have another Haridas here too. There's two Haridasas. Yeah. Yeah. So there again, everyone came to the San Francisco Center, including the Christians, the Muslims, the atheists. They brought their rosaries, they brought their tasbeeds. They were chanting throughout the day and night for Prabhupada's recovery. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. So what's that meaning? Later on, somebody else made it a little different. And he said, our master has not finished his work. Please protect him. That's the meaning of that. Prabhupada gave an easy meaning for him to be protected to continue his mission. Yeah. So you can imagine if Prabhupada left us, at the end of May, like June 3rd practically, 1967, where would we be? Practically Krishna extended his stay in this material world. Yeah. So then Prabhupada landed in Birth Israel Hospital because he had to be attended to. Like that. So Jadurani decided if Brahmananda took Nishingadev's painting to his room, then Jadurani decided, I will take now that painting to the hospital room. And I will take another painting of Radha Krishna that she was painting also to the hospital room. So she brought two of these paintings into Birth Israel Hospital in New York, one of Radha Krishna and one of Lord Nishinga, tearing apart the demon Hiranyakashipu with Prahlada quietly on the side with a garland. So Prabhupada was looking at these two paintings in the hospital room now. And then he commented, just see how God is many-sided. Here as Radha Krishna is in his loving exchange. And just see here as Nishingadev that even anger comes from Krishna in the form of Nishingadev. So he was appreciating like that. Srila Prabhupada. Now I'm going to read you this letter where there's proof. Prabhupada says he actually left his body. So several days later, that happened from May 31st to June 3rd, these things what I was discussing. Now on June 5th, Srila Prabhupada received a very affectionate letter from all of his disciples in San Francisco of how they stayed up all night chanting, praying for his recovery. And he did recover. And immediately, Prabhupada dictated a letter to be sent to them. And here's the letter from Srila Prabhupada to the devotees in San Francisco. June 5th, 1967. Prabhupada writes, my dear boys and girls, before I continue, Prabhupada changed that later on because they were young now in their early 20s, my dear boys and girls. But Prabhupada changed it a lot, and most of the time after that he writes in his letters, my dear sons and daughters. So Prabhupada is not a guru, an acharya, he's a spiritual father. My dear sons and daughters, very affectionate. But now he writes, my dear boys and girls, because there were many others who were Christians and Muslims and others who were praying for him. See? My dear boys and girls, I am so much obliged to you for your prayers to Krishna to save my life. Due to your sincere and ardent prayer, Krishna has saved my life. I was to die on Tuesday, certainly, June 3rd, 1967. Prabhupada says, I was to die on Tuesday, certainly, but because you prayed sincerely, I am saved. Now I am improving gradually and coming to the original condition. Now I hope to meet you again and chant with you Hare Krishna. I am so glad to receive the report of your progressive march and hope there will be no difficulty in your understanding Krishna consciousness. My blessings are always with you, and with confidence you go on with your chanting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, In August 1st, 1970, you can hear the tape. It's a beautiful tape of how Prabhupada introduces the first two verses. Namaste Narashringhaya Prahlada Lada Dayane. The first two verses. He introduced that later, on August 1st in 1970 in Los Angeles. Okay. Now what's the reason? He said, poison has entered our International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Poison. I'm not going to get into the details, it's all in my notes. Take a long time. And the poison basically came from his godbrothers, some of his godbrothers. I wouldn't mention the particular godbrother. Then Srila Prabhupada introduced the first two verses to remove the poison. And it was successful. They practically poisoned leading sannyasis. To the extent that they were saying that Srila Prabhupada is not the important disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. We are here. And they were convinced, leading sannyasis, I won't mention the names. Prabhupada said, they have injected the poison. We have to give the antidote. And he saved his own disciples from the poison with these first two prayers. Yeah. That's one. Another reason why Srila Prabhupada introduced the first two prayers, oh yes, because some of the leaders at that time were focused on collecting money. Collecting money. And they were neglecting to take care of the devotees. They were just seeing the devotees as money slot machines. How much you bring, then you're a good devotee. And Prabhupada introduced his prayers. We are worshipping Madhava. And Madhavi is the principal goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. There will be no short of money. See? So if your focus is money, then everything becomes commercial. And when that happens, you're not going to get the protection of Nishingadev for your Bhakti Lata Beach, for your kripa of devotional service. And then everything just goes into position, power and politics. PPP. So therefore Prabhupada introduced these first two prayers. That we have to be very careful and focus on why we came to Krishna consciousness. We came to chant Hare Krishna and we came to go back home, back to Goloka Vrindavan. We didn't come to establish ourselves in this material world by using positions within devotional service to establish ourselves in the material world. It's not going to work for long. See? It's not going to work for long. So Prabhupada introduced that for two reasons. The society was poisoned from the outside, and internally people were losing why they came to Krishna consciousness. That's why he introduced that. There's many details, I have it in my notes about that too. However, we'll take some comments or questions and then we will read from I'll Build Your Temple to conclude the Juhu story of how Nishingadev appeared to help Srila Prabhupada here in Juhu. Any comments or questions? Brajari Prabhu, you'd like to give some words of wisdom? Yeah, give Prabhu. I know I catch him unaware. Unawares. Help us say something. We have to hear from him sometime, right? Prajari Prabhu, please help us.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for a nice lecture. So, I read one lecture of Giriraj Swami. He spoke in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Yes.
So, about 10 years before, I think. So, in that lecture, he mentioned that in Hare Krishna land, when
he mentioned in Los Angeles about Juhu.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice.
So,
So he's not in Los Angeles, he's in Juhu, in Los Angeles. His consciousness goes away. Yes.
So he mentioned in that lecture that when demolition took place here, so one of the councillor, municipality councillor, and another person, Mr. Rane, Rane Maidan here in his name, Rane and Mr. Matre.
Oh, Matre. So Matre was worse than Sakuni. Right? Something like that?
No. So he was telling when demolition was taking place, they were laughing. In front of their house, they were laughing. Mr. Rane's house is just opposite our Hare Krishna land. So both are laughing. And devotees were crying how to protect Radha Rasbihari. So that time, so one devotee just went to Mr. Matre and Rane. He said, now you are laughing, and time will come, you will cry. Very soon you will cry, he said. So, this is, he spoke on Lord Narasimha Appearance Day.
Yes.
So he said, so the devotee told both of them. And just after 1 month, Mr. Rane, they used to do gambling.
Gambling?
In the night. So one night, he lost a lot of money in the gambling. So much money he lost. So he committed suicide by powering kerosene.
Burning.
Yeah. So in another occasion, Prabhupada said that I was praying to Lord Narasimha when regarding the Mr. Nair.
It's in the book.
Yeah. So Lord Narasimha actually protect the devotees. Yes. Because whenever we have any difficulty, like you mentioned, Prabhupada, ill health, very sick. Because devotees prayed, then he just 45 minutes, you said, he was out of consciousness. But he just came back. Because our utmost devotion and prayer to Lord Narasimha. Hare Krishna.
His Grace Braja Hari Prabhu ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Before you have a comment or question? I'll take it just now. Just to say that, okay, I'll say this later. It's okay. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Ram Rup Prabhu.
In the 7th canto, 10th chapter, after all the pastime is concluded, then Lord Brahma prayed to Lord Nishingadev. When Lord Nishingadev chastised Brahma, why did you give all these benedictions and all? Then he prayed a very wonderful prayer saying that, my dear Lord, in this world, everybody is destined to die as per their destiny. But those who meditate on your form, they can defeat death.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Then Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that everybody is destined to die as per their time, but devotees can defeat death by the mercy of Lord Nishingadev. Like we have seen in the case of Srila Prabhupada.
His Grace Ram Rup Prabhu ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. So if anybody has any questions or comments, further comments, you're welcome. Please. He's smiling, Mukunda Madhava Prabhu. He wants to give him the microphone. He's so happy today. Give him the microphone. Some words of wisdom, come on.
As Ramrupa was mentioning,
Yes.
that devotees can defeat the death. That means you extend your stay here.
Yes, Nishingadev can
And
extend
also-
your stay.
Other way around is also true, as in the case of Mr. Yan that you are going to read.
Mr.
Mr. Yan.
N. Say A.B. Naya, it's okay.
So in that case, by the prayers of Srila Prabhupada, you accelerate your time, fast forward the time, and you invite the death faster also. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. His Grace Mukunda Madhava Prabhu ki. I'm just going to tell you a personal thing. My family surname is Naya.
So you are a descendant of Nair dynasty, so you have come to comment on.
From Malabar.
Like Prahlada Maharaj, the same
Oh,
dynasty.
So I have many demoniac desires. Be careful. So maybe that same Mr. A.B. Nayak came in another form, because I'm attached to this land. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Anyone? Matajis? Vaishnavis? Yes. Maharaj, give Maharaj some. But you're not asking question, Maharaj. You comment. Nice.
I heard this comments from P.L. Sethi.
Yes.
P.L. Sethi is describing about yourself. He was become very sick and he was admitted in the hospital. Doctor planning to send him in London for heart treatment. And after some days, Prabhupada heard Sethi become very sick and hospitalized. Prabhupada personally went in the hospital and brought him back his home. The doctor surprised. Maybe within 1 or 2 days he left body. But P.L. Sethi, after a few days, he became cured. And doctor also surprised. So P.L. Sethi was describing one night Srila Prabhupada praying to Lord Nrsimhadev. We can, oh Lord Nrsimhadev, can you protect P.L. Sethi? He is a wonderful devotee. How we can make wonderful temple for Radharas Bihari? So by his praying, P.L. Sethi become completely cured without any medicine.
Oh yes, and he lived for so many generations after that, so many years.
So I heard many times from the mouth of P.L. Sethi. It's a great miracles. Hare Krishna.
Shriman P.L. Sethi ki. His Holiness Ananta Krishna Das Goswami Maharaj ki. So I'll just read that part. Oh, there's a hand up at the back. Yes, we'll take that. Microphone. Everyone, while the microphone goes to him. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you.
What's your name?
Sachiputra Das.
Sachiputra Prabhu. Go ahead.
So, as you explained in your lecture, that how the authorities, they give us the task, they give us the services, So we also try our best to do not bringing money, but we try to do the best for our services. In so many times, we take that risk, you know, by engaging ourselves without having the sufficient time for our personal devotional services, like chanting, reading.
You don't have time to chant it.
See, I do, but I'm telling you that sometimes, lack for that. So my question is that how to focus a balance in both the cases, in these cases.
Srila Prabhupada was asked a question by a disciple. Why do we take vow at the time of initiation to follow the four regulative principles? And Srila Prabhupada replied, you take a vow to follow the four regulative principles, which is the negative vows, know this, know this, know this, know this, to make you a human being. Then the disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, why do we take a vow, only vow, positive vow, to chant minimum 16 rounds of japa daily? Then Srila Prabhupada said that you take that vow so that you can have the proper foundation and basis to be Krishna conscious. Without the proper foundation and basis of chanting minimum 16 rounds of japa daily, anything you build upon must collapse. Because the foundation and basis is shaky. See? So our devotional service becomes devotional. There are two words. One is called service, which you're speaking about. I have so much service to do that I'm not able to chant my japa and not read Prabhupada's books. Because that is service. That is, but it is not devotional service. That is, but it is not imbued with bhakti. The foundation and basis of why we came to Krishna consciousness is called devotional service, not service. And bhakti comes only from bhakti. Bhakti is independent and free. Bhakti cannot come from service. Bhakti only can come from devotion in your service. So therefore, the first thing for the day that one should do before one does any other services is to chant one's japa. And then whatever service you do during the day, even collecting billions of dollars. I collected millions of dollars for ISKCON too. See? That becomes a devotional service. So therefore we are called International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Not International Society for my own consciousness. See? And my position, power and politics. Doesn't work like that. So therefore bhakti is the main ingredient. Is the main ingredient. Then on a lighter side, just to respond to your question, on a lighter side, just to change it a little bit. Yeah. One disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam Yome Bhakti Prayachati. Tadam Bhakti Uparitam Asnami Prayatat Manaha. That Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita that one should offer me, Krishna, only a leaf, fruit, flower or water. So Srila Prabhupada was asked a question by the disciple. Oh yes, Krishna is saying that, but why are you asking? You nicely, I'm happy you're quoting Bhagavad Gita and Krishna's words. But then the disciple said, but Srila Prabhupada, I'm confused. why are we offering Krishna Rasagulla? Why are we offering Krishna Paneer? Then Prabhupada, first he didn't answer the question. Then he said, you don't like Rasagulla? No, Prabhupada, I like Rasagulla. But Krishna doesn't say that. He said simple leaf, fruit, flower and some water. We don't need to even earn money to get that. We can get it anywhere for free. And Prabhupada, oh, I've introduced paneer. Nobody knew about paneer before, even in the Western world. In the West, you don't like paneer? Prabhupada, I love paneer. But he said, Krishna doesn't say that. In a very naive, innocent way. Prabhupada liked it because, he was innocent. Yeah. Then Prabhupada gave the answer. He said, Krishna gives the principle and the spiritual master gives the details. Very nice. I don't know if I have more time, but what's the time now? Oh, there's no breakfast. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Prabhu, microphone. What's your name? Your name?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Your name?
Janudvip Nitai Das.
Okay, Janudvip Nitai, Prabhu, tell us.
Comment and question Maharaj.
Which you want first?
Comment.
Okay.
Many other faith people, they think that Lord cannot appear, Supreme Lord, through the mother and father. But here, Lord Narasimha is appearing even without mother and father through the pillar. So that proves Lord is inconceivable. He can appear anytime through any means. Now, question Maharaj. Many people have many stories in the society about the disappearance of Lord Narasimha. How some people say many stories about it. Your view on that?
So the first part, would you comment? When Nishingadev was calling Prahlada close to him, because Brahma and Lakshmi Devi pushing, you go, he's too angry. You go. Because he appeared because of you, not us, you go. Yeah. So when Prahlada went, and eventually Nishingadev lifted Prahlada and put him on his lap, and Nishingadev started tearing. Tears. And the tears fell on Prahlada's head like Abhishek. Yeah. So Prahlada looked up at Nishingadev, that he was completely pacified and peaceful. So it is I did some research, but it's understood that Nishingadev was tearing because he didn't have parents. He didn't have parents. And he's thinking, Prahlada, at least you have a father. Although he was not so good, but you had a father and you have mother, But I don't have any parents. So what's the next incarnation after Nishingadev? Huh? What's the next incarnation? I forget the sequence now. Then every other incarnation after Nishingadev had parents. Every other incarnation had parents. A very intimate thing. Now, what was your question again?
There are many people
say how Nishingadev disappeared.
Yes.
Is Srila Prabhupada here? Answer my question.
Yes.
Is Nishingadev here?
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
About the some legendary.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, that's all. We don't speak about disappearance of the Lord. It's in our line. Prabhupada told us that. Because the Lord never disappears from the core of the hearts of the devotees. That is for non-devotees. That is for non-devotees. For non-devotees, because the Lord, the Supreme Lord, Krishna or Nishingadev, that fulfills everyone's desire. Fulfills everyone's desire. Even fulfills the desires of the non-devotees. Otherwise, how can he not be the Supreme Lord? He is the Supreme Lord because he can fulfill everyone's desire, even those who are atheists. Even those who are atheists. Now, you have the microphone, Prabhu?
Yes, Maharaj.
In English, in plain, normal, common English, can you define an atheist? Define? Describe an atheist. One who?
Doesn't believe in God.
One who does not believe in God. One who does not believe in God. So it appears to be that you have to use the word God to define an atheist. One who does not believe in what? Yeah. So God must exist for an atheist not to believe in God. Because that's how you define an atheist, one who does not believe in God. You have to use the word God to define it. So even the atheists are devotees because they do not believe in Krishna. So God must exist for somebody not to believe in God. So who exists first? The atheist or God? God. Therefore, one who does not believe in God. You have to use the word God. For them, this so-called disappearance. Not for us. Is that okay?
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
So, can I read this to conclude from the I'll Build Your Temple, the Juhu story book to support what Brajahari Prabhu said? Can I read it? Yes. So this is a chapter entitled Arriving on the Scene, a Good Fight. It's earlier in the book. It's on page 158. So Giriraj Swami writes, His Holiness Giriraj Swami writes like this. One Sunday, as I was walking through the streets in Dobita Lahore, South Mumbai. You know where that place is? South Bombay. Briefcase in hand. So all other life membership preachers then also had a briefcase. On my way to meet someone, I happened to stop for a moment by the Metro Cinema to look at the periodicals on sale along the sidewalk, something I generally never did. Standing on the busy corner with traffic rushing from all directions, I glanced at the newspaper headlines. Big black bold letters jumped out from one front page, in inverted commas. A.B. Nair dead. And directly under the headline was a photo of Mr. Nair. I couldn't believe it. A.B. Nair dead? How could it be? The paper was the Bharat Jyoti, the Sunday edition of the Free Press Journal, where Nair had been the editor. I was jubilant. I felt like dancing in ecstasy. But then I wondered if that was the proper way for a Vaishnav to respond. I am supposed to be developing saintly qualities, I reflected. Maybe I should feel sorry. Still, I could not contain my exultation, and I rushed back to our flat in Colaba to share the news. Bali Madan, the most senior devotee there, suggested we call Srila Prabhupada and went out to look for a phone. I decided I should go to Juhu. The devotees there had already heard the news and had been rejoicing and celebrating, chanting and distributing sweets. It's a festival. But I was still uncertain. Was this the proper way for Vaishnavas to behave? When Bali Madan phoned Auckland to inform, Auckland is in New Zealand, Prabhupada was there. When Bali Madan phoned Auckland to inform Prabhupada of Naya's death, the phone call came during Prabhupada's morning massage just before lunchtime. Shrutikiti was sitting on the floor behind him, massaging his back, with Tushta Krishna and Siddha Swarup nearby. Tushta Krishna took the call and then Shrutikiti came to the phone. After just a few minutes, Shrutikiti ran back into the room. Srila Prabhupada, he said, that was Bali Madan on the phone. He wanted to tell you that Mr. Naya is dead. Srila Prabhupada joined his hands together above his head as if in prayer. Oh, thank you, Krishna, he said. I prayed that Krishna would kill him. He caused us so much difficulty. He gave so much trouble to the devotees. I was praying that Krishna would do something to this demon. Actually, Mr. Naya was worse than Duryodhana. This is our local ISKCON Mahabharata. And Matre was worse than Sakuni. Yeah. And then Srila Prabhupada, and he quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, famous verse from Prahlada Maharaj. Canto 7, chapter 9, text 14. Tajyachamonyam natajyachamanyum asuras chahatas tvayadya modeta sadur apivrikshika sarpahatya lokascha nivritim itapratiyanti sarve rupam nishingha vibhayaya jana smaranti. Prahlada Maharaj said, Prabhupada quotes, even a saintly person becomes pleased when a snake or a scorpion is killed. And Prabhupada goes on. Naya was a big snake, so it is very good. Since Krishna killed him, is he liberated? Shrutikiti asked. No, Prabhupada replied. He was not such a great demon. Krishna didn't come personally to kill him. As Shrutikiti continued his massage, Prabhupada recounted some of the struggle and revealed more of his inner mood. The deities were installed on the property, Prabhupada said. Mr. Naya had insulted Krishna by trying to remove him, and that I could not tolerate. Some of my disciples didn't understand. They wondered why their spiritual master was so attached to that piece of property, this property. In truth, we had money. We could have bought property anywhere. We didn't need that piece of property. But Krishna was standing there at Juhu, and therefore I was determined to have it. Even some of my disciples were ready to leave the property, but I promised the deities that I would build them a beautiful temple there. When Naya came to visit me last in Bombay, I noticed he was limping. Generally, he was strong and robust. He raised his arms like a muscle man, flexing his biceps. He was not at all ill, but he was limping. I thought to myself, Krishna is going to kill him. He is going to die. And now, Krishna has killed him. Unquote. So Giriraj Swami now continues. Naya's downfall resembled Ramachandra Khan's as described in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, both had allowed the seed of offense to germinate. Quote, this seed later became a tree, and when it fructified, Ramachandra Khan ate its fruits. Ramachandra Khan was naturally a non-devotee. Now, having offended the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur, he became just like a demoniac atheist. Because of blaspheming the cult of Vaishnavism and insulting the devotees for a long time, he now received the results of his offensive activities. Unquote from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Giriraj Swami continues. Later that day, Prabhupada wrote to us in Bombay. And Prabhupada writes, this morning, Shutikiti received telephone message from Bali Mardan. It is understood that Mr. Naya is dead. So it is good news that Nishingadev has killed a demon like him. It is a matter of great pleasure for all devotees. So that's how Srila Prabhupada ends that in relation to Nishingadev appearing here in Juhu for the project and to establish this beautiful temple for Sri Sri Radharasa Bihari. Now, just to conclude, we can conclude now? It's okay? Yeah. We first printed this book in October, November of 2020, but we only received the shipment because it was printed by BBT Australia for international standards. Same book, a deluxe edition. You probably all have knowing the copy. And 8,500 copies of the 10,000 first printing was released in January last year, and you inaugurated the book here. Yeah. But only 1,500 copies was reserved for India, and most of it was taken in Juhu here, and some of it taken in Pune. So when I returned to India last year in September, after the COVID lockdown period, I found there's no books here. And only India had 1,500 copies. And this event is in India, in Juhu. Yeah. So His Holiness Giriraj Swami and I decided to reprint. So the first reprint we did for 10,000 copies. And paper price went up last year, October, by 40%. You're probably aware, if you're in the paper industry. And we paid more cost for the book to BBT Australia. So I received 10,000, out of the 10,000, Giriraj Swami and other temples took 2,500 copies, and I retained 7,500 for India. Yeah. But the first 8,500 and the first printing was distributed in 2 months all over the world. Finished. So from January beginning, we received the books in the beginning of January, the 7,500 copies from BBT Australia. Same book, deluxe edition. And I was traveling all over. Delhi NCR temples mainly. And I traveled to Surat. Then I traveled to Chennai, to Tirupati, and all the temples in Bangalore. They don't even have the book. His Holiness Jayapataka Swami was in a hospital in Chennai some weeks or months back before he went to Mayapur for Gaur Purnima. So His Holiness Giriraj Swami and himself are very close friends. They're very close friends. So he had a personal video call with His Holiness Jayapataka Swami. This is now, like maybe February or something. So Jayapataka Maharaj asked Giriraj Swami, so when's your book coming out? The Juhu book. So Giriraj Swami was shocked. He said, Maharaj, the book was released last year, 1 year, 4-5 months ago. I don't have a copy. And he was a little bit disturbed. So immediately he called, Srimati Krishna, you have a book? No, we don't have a book. We made some copies. So they borrowed one devotee's book who took it from Juhu, who came here. And he was very happy to do it. He said, get the supply. And there's a photo of His Holiness Bhanu Swami with His Holiness Giriraj Swami, Guru Das Prabhu and Mother Yamuna with Srimati Indira Gandhi in the book. It's here in black and white in the book. Even His Holiness Bhanu Swami didn't get a copy. Not so good. This is an authentic Prabhupada Leela. Whatever question you want to ask Srila Prabhupada is in this book. He will answer it. Whether it's life membership, whether it's fundraising, whether it's festivals, whether it's not Easter Gosti, whether it's Musti Gosti amongst devotees, it's in the book. How to deal with it. Yeah. So I traveled mid-January, February, March, April, now it's mid-May for 4 months. I just came from Bangalore. Yeah. And I was just doing, I didn't know how these books will go. I'm thinking I took 7,500, how it's going to go. Somehow I'm praying, to spread the glories of Srila Prabhupada and his followers who suffered so much, to establish Krishna consciousness to the gateway of India, Mumbai. And to date, I only have 800 copies left. So how many was distributed? From 7,500? Over 6,000 copies is already gone. And it's a maha big book. You get nice book points if you want to increase your book points for your temple. BBT, Australia. So you should have a book table here. Special book table. Only a special devotee should be there. It's about you. It's about you. Bangalore alone took 1,100 books. More than Juhu. So please, this is an historical gem. Historical gem. Prabhupada himself says, it was a good fight. He says in the back of the book, somebody should write a book about it. It is worth writing. History. You will read how they suffered, the devotees. Then you will see how we are enjoying. Such nice facility. Amazing. All because of Nishingadev. Prabhupada. Nishingadev kept Prabhupada with us from 1967. And again Nishingadev appeared here to nicely establish this project for the transcendental pleasure of Shri Shri Radha Rasa Bihari. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Vranda ki, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nishingadev Bhagavan ki, Shri Prahlada Maharaja ki, Natai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari. So there's a nice program for today for the festival. At 1 o'clock, that's for the brahmacharya. No, at 11 o'clock, it's at 2 o'clock there's a beautiful drama, English or Hindi? Both. In the beautiful drama about the glories of Prahlada Maharaj in the auditorium, 2 o'clock, right? 2 to 3. And then also at 3 o'clock, also be sure to attend a nice Nishingadev Leela class by His Holiness Ananta Krishna Das Goswami Maharaj. And then thereafter there's Abhishek at what time? At 5 o'clock. Oh, there's a Nishingadev Puja, Yagya, at 5 o'clock till 6. And then after that there's Abhishek here in the temple room. And after the Abhishek there's Arti and Kirtan and chanting and dancing, and then there's feasting. Feasting. Thank you very much. Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Vranda ki, Sri Sri Radha Rasa Bihari Lalita Vishaka ki, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, ISKCON Juhu Yatra ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Hare.